this video, we are going to look at the user authentication options supported by Evolphin Zoom. Zoom supports a number of different authentication options for the user to sign in. The first we are going to look at is the Zoom local user database. Second option we are going to look at next is the LDAP based directory such as Microsoft Active Directory. And then finally, we'll also look at single sign-on using an identity provider such as Azure AD, Okta, Ping Federate. Okay, let's start with the Zoom local user database. So in order to set up a user in the Zoom local user database, first head to the Zoom administration portal, which is typically hosted on your Zoom server at port 9443, which is the secure SSL port. Once you have logged in into your administrative console, then you want to make sure in the system panel, in the server control panel, you have turned on the user local database based sign-in. So you will head to the security settings, and in here you will see a number of choices. The one that you will use would be Zoom Realm. So Zoom uses the notion of realm to figure out which authentication option is turned on. So if you want to use local user database, just set it to Zoom Realm, and that would allow you to then manage your accounts, user accounts, directly in Evolphin. And when we say directly, that means you can create users and add them directly through our web admin portal. So you can come in here, specify a new user account information like the username, let's say Joe, the last name, and you can specify an initial password that the user can change. You can also specify an initial project vault that the user would have access to. You also can specify an initial role that the user would play, email address, and when you hit save, it'll create a new user account like any of these accounts that you see in the system. So that is the local user database. The passwords indeed are stored in the user database in the Zoom backend. And this option is suitable for on-premises deployment, where you have control over the Zoom server, which users can access it. External users are not allowed to access in an on-premise setup. If you are thinking about a cloud-based setup or a rather large user group setup, then the user local database option is not recommended. That's when the Active Directory option or LDAP option or single sign-on options come along. So let's take a look at the LDAP-based options next. So one of the things that you notice is in this repository, we have set up the realm to point to LDAP. And once we have set up the LDAP configuration, we can find that here in a moment. So you set up the LDAP configuration, and this is documented on our help site on how to fill this in, and will be topic of another video. Then you will be able to automatically pull users from your LDAP server. By default, Zoom will automatically sync users from your LDAP store like an Active Directory every day. If you want to do it right away, you just have to click on pull users from LDAP, and that will make a call to your LDAP server and pull any user attribute that you have configured to sync to the local user database. So with this realm, you don't manage your passwords in Evolphin Zoom, you manage that in LDAP. And when a user signs in, the login would prompt for a username password still. The password that you enter would be authenticated against your directory or LDAP server. And finally, the third option is to use a single sign-on setup. So with single sign-on, you set up a OpenID Connect provider to use as your identity store. So for example, I could use Microsoft Azure AD or Ping Federate or Okta as my store, and Zoom will delegate all authentication requests to that single sign-on IDP that uses the OpenID Connect protocol. And with single sign-on, the experience would look very different. So for instance, if I were to try to sign in into a Zoom server that had single sign-on set up with Azure, I would be presented with a user experience like this. I can click on Connect with Azure, and I would be taken over to Microsoft Azure to go and sign in. So for example, I'm signing in as user Rahul, and based on my settings, it will automatically decide which identity provider to use. So even though I started the sign on with Azure, it was able to pick my Google Suite, G Suite identity and use that to sign me in into the repository. And once I am signed in, I will be able to get into the repository. If I click in here, I can see I'm logged in with my profile, and I don't need to manage passwords in any local database. The passwords are managed by the identity provider.